Oh,
Feels like sloth.
oh,
It's like,
that's no fun. I stuff is hard, like you can't.
I'm really bummed I did not bring a pen.
Would you like to borrow one?
I would love one, so you are gonna want to take notes.
You got it, Robert.
Return it. Sorry. It's a big bag with not big cash.
I think Bernie at 6:01. This senior member, vice chair.
dispose their trash.
Well, maybe. Yeah, so you're checking workday every like 5 minutes right now to approve job offers. Like you don't get notifications, right?
I do.
In your email?
So let's, we have.
In a good way or in a more professional?
Thank you so much.
It's not disruptive, like.
Yes, thank you so much.
Approvals. Does anybody need?
It's so much quicker.
Review
Yes, for you.
Exactly.
Everyone else should have it.
Is it this, or is it different than?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so let's get started. My name is Andrew Bernstein, better known as Bernie, please call me Bernie. I've been around the longest, so I get the honor of chairing this meeting, and I'd love to start by welcoming our new members. It's wonderful to meet you all, see you all in person for the first time. We're grateful to you for volunteering and for making a commitment to the city of Boulder and our park system. Let's see. Typically, we would have a chair who chairs this meeting, but our chair is no longer, his term ended, or well, he left the tribe anyway. In our next meeting, we'll have elections for chair and vice chair. And so whomever wins that election will be formally running the meeting, but for tonight, I'll do my best to keep things moving along with the help of our wonderful staff. Just by way of orientation, I know Ali mentioned, but staff provides dinner for us when we have meetings. So feel free to arrive anytime after about 5, and eat, hang out, relax. If you can't make it until 5:58, is often the case for me, then it's totally fine to be eating as we're getting into the work of the meeting. We do have rules that we will that we follow in these meetings that we use to run and govern the meetings, that we'll get into a little bit, but we also maintain a fairly informal environment. And if you need to get up to the restroom or get water, feel free. We also have a tradition of interrupting staff a lot and asking questions, and I expect all of you to continue that politely, of course, but nevertheless, we keep these meetings conversational, which I think is ultimately generally pretty productive. Sometimes the chair may have to things off if we're going too long on it, talking about trees, for instance. Let's see. Why don't we Ali, can have the staff introduce themselves? Yeah, and we'll be seeing a lot of. I'm sorry. Let me introduce myself a little bit more. I moved to Boulder in 2018. I joined the crab in 2023, and my motivation, I think like many of yours, was that I was just interested in investing more of my time in making Boulder better. Park seems like a wonderful way to do it because I'm a Parks user, as are most of the people I know who live in Boulder. And I see the impact that our parks and recreation programs have on the city, and was eager to find ways to support that work, and also hopefully help the staff see ways to improve the system and system, the programs. I live in South Boulder, right across from Fairview High School on Greenbrier. And my favorite park probably is Harlow Platts, which is just across the street from me, so I use it a lot. And I own a communications agency working in the outdoor and active spaces. Jenny, would you just introduce yourself?
Yes, I wanted to ask, on the study session agenda, item 1 is approval of agenda. Do we have to do that?
I don't.
It's just
think-
the one that
no.
was online.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no formal approval. for- no.
I'm sorry. I was
Thank
just
you for
saying
checking.
One more thing. We know that you're doing a lot of onboarding this month. Thank you. Typically, we have one meeting a week. You may get pulled into another ancillary thing or two.
One
But
meeting a month.
excuse me. Thank you. Yes, one meeting per month. So we just want to recognize that you're making a larger type of commitment right now as you get onboarded, and we are grateful that you're doing that. It's a lot to learn, and thank you for suggesting all that information, and don't hesitate to ask us questions as you're learning.
I'm Jenny Robbins. I'm the second most senior somehow person on the crowd. I've been here a year. Really enjoying my time on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I have spoken to many of you just to say hello and introduce myself on the phone. And I became interested in the Parks and Rec Advisory Board about 3 years ago. I applied once and didn't get on, and then applied again and did. So that was really exciting. Since I've been on the board, I have gotten to know staff a lot better, and they're all really, really knowledgeable, passionate, wonderfully educated people on everything Parks and Rec and beyond. So they're very accessible. Anything that you need, they're always willing to give it. And, we always just try to make sure that we understand that, time after 5 o'clock is volunteer for everybody almost. So this is time that everyone's spending here to make our Parks and Rec system even better. My favorite park is Coot Lake. I like to go walk with my dog there, and I'm really excited to have everybody on board.
I'm Rob Kaplan. I got on the first time by the skin of my teeth. I watched the city council meeting. It's fun. I'm a retired firefighter. I worked for Boulder Rural Fire Rescue for 18 years. Retired about 2 years ago. Before that, I used to own a bike shop right over here called Pro Peloton. And I sold that. And I just wanted to get involved because I've always been in the community with firefighting, being, out there with the public. And I've never really gotten into, this isn't really political, but just the volunteer side of it for this. And if I have to pick a favorite park, I'm gonna pick North Boulder Park because I live right next to it.
Hard not to pick that one.
It's a good one.
So hi, I'm Kara Siegel. So excited to be joining the board this year. So I moved to Boulder around 3 years ago and just started volunteering, working in the garden with OSMP, and then also doing the point in time count. And I think along the way, I got to meet a lot of people who work for the city of Boulder, and I was just very impressed and wanted to get more involved. I have more of a strategy and analytics background working in the private sector for different technology companies. So I'm excited to sort of use those skills and translate that into helping support something I really care about, which is, Boulder Parks and Recreation. And I think for me, I do love the parks, but you'll also find me playing pickleball like a couple times a week. So, see me on the courts, say hi.
My name is Yvonne Castillo, and I moved to Boulder with my 2 kids and my husband about 1.5 years ago, but I went to law school here 30 years ago. So I really have always loved Boulder, lived here for a long time, and it's just amazing to be back. Moved here because of the value of parks, literally. That was the driver. We were coming from the East Coast, And I wanted access to parks. I wanted access to outdoors, to have a good quality of life with my family. And so this is an amazing opportunity to be serving in this position. So grateful to be here.
My name is Mike Schreiner. I've been here since 2000. I am really interested, or was really interested in joining the Parks and Recreation Board, just because my family has benefited so much from it. My daughter's first job as a lifeguard at North Boulder Rec. I've taken all the swim lessons. We've done all kinds of dancing lessons, whatever. And it's just an amazing asset for the city. And it's got some challenges coming up, budget primarily, along with, the wish list of things we need to do and the list of things that absolutely have to get done. And so I hope to be able to facilitate or help with that. I've been an attorney for almost 40 years. I think the last 20 years here with Kaplan and Ernest, a local firm. And my favorite place, Parks and Rec, is the North Boulder Rec Center, where I go virtually every morning at 5:45, join the queue to go in.
I'm Megan Loman. I'm a recreation manager here. So any questions that you all have about the rec centers, pools, health and wellness, that kind of thing, and I'll help answer them and just here to support the community. And then I guess if I have to pick a favorite park, I'm gonna go to North Boulder Park because that's where I got married.
Nice.
Hey folks, I've met all of you briefly in some way, so I'll just share a little bit more about myself. I'm Allie. I'm in my 6th year as the director of the department and 23rd year serving the city, always with Parks and Recreation. It's an honor. We have, I hope one of the things that becomes clear, you've heard hints from Bernie and Jenny, is that we have a nationally recognized system and incredibly competent, capable staff to operate it. And so we are gifted in both land and people. And excited to work with you. To build on Mike's point, there are a lot of exciting conversations ahead, and so that we can get to them, I'm going to toss it over to Scott.
Sounds good. I'm Scott Schuttenberg. I'm the deputy director here helping Allie on a regular basis. We'll talk quite a bit later about organizational structure. But I'm also originally from Boulder, graduated high school here. So I went away for a career in higher education and came back a couple of years ago. And so I oversee our regional facilities, really all of our community service areas, recreation, and whatnot. And my favorite park, I guess I'd say the Boulder Reservoir.
Hi everyone, I'm Clarissa Collins. I've been working here for a little under a year, and this is my first prime meeting that I'm running the technology for. So hopefully that works so good. And I'll say my favorite park is also Boulder Reservoir, since I went paddleboarding there for the first time last year. It was really fun.
Jackson Height, I oversee our business services team. I've been with the department for 7 years now. You'll hear a lot about budget for the next 4 months. This is the 16th local government budget I've been involved with. So 16th year, I should say, not 16th government agency. And I love what I do here. I think that I love getting to see all the parks. Belmont, Reservoir, and Tantra are up there as my top 3. And I'll turn it over to Stacy.
Yes, hi, I'm Stacy Hoffman. I am the senior budget analyst for the department. I work with Jackson, and I've been with the city for 6 years. And I like a lot of our parks, so I'm not going to pick a favorite. They're all great.
And I should note, we had 5 open seats to fill. We filled 5, and then unfortunately, one person had to resign. So we will be hopefully receiving one final 7th member that requires an act of the city council, which we're hoping will happen at some point in the next month or so. So we're not a full board quite yet, but
Luckily, we don't have any big votes coming up where, an even numbers could be problematic.
just as far as tonight goes, you can see the agenda here. We're of course already behind schedule.
Catch up.
Is Andy here? Or is
He's
he-
not. Our attorney is sick, and so I'll cover that section on the roles and responsibilities.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
are we ready to proceed?
Yep, let's dive in. First, I just want to note that this is the first time we're doing an onboarding like this with the board. It was at the suggestion of the PRAB members for 2 reasons. One, You all join in April when we are diving deep into budget preparation, and it's just a steep learning curve. And we thought some of this, if we do up front, can set you up for success better in that way. Typically, there's a retreat in the fall, and we've covered some of these materials. And the folks last year are like, why are we not doing this sooner? And so really this session now is at the request and suggestion of your fellow board members, and we're here to help. Board roles and functions, I'm really glad we're talking about this early because it's often a source of either tension or frustration. And I'll just share more. So sometimes we've had board members in the past who joined because they're passionate about mental health and they want to start delivering services to the community. And you'll learn in a bit, that's not the role of the crowd to provide the services. The charter actually expressly prohibits you from doing the work of Parks and Recreation. Or people are frustrated because of the nature of an advisory board. And so, for example, if a PRAB member were to say, Allie, I really just, in my neighborhood, there's no dog park and I'd like you to do one there next year, right? Like that is beyond the function of the PRAB for an individual member or even the board to provide direction to add a service that is outside of the scope of the department plan or outside of the budget that city council has approved. And that advisory piece can be frustrating. And we just think talking about it early and often can be really helpful. Because where you are advisors, we find it incredibly valuable. Board member input, critical questions, strategic thinking can help us do better work. And so a lot of you have already heard me say this, the best board members are asking us hard questions to make the work better for the community and doing it in a way that honors the expertise and passion of our staff so constructively. So your roles are all spelled out in the city charter, which is our constitution. Basically, it can be only changed by an election of the community. And it's the ultimate oversight over the role of city council, the role of the advisory boards, the role of staff. The Boulder Revised Code is the ordinances that then implement the charter. It can be changed by city council. So for example, if we were to say, you know what, we really need 9 folks on PRAB. Nope, that's in the charter. Trying to think of something for PRAB that would be in an ordinance. It would be around your authorities and approvals. So we'll get into that in a minute. So Boulder Revised Code, Boulder Charter, they're both online, and it's actually somewhat searchable as far as if you wanted to find something specific to parks. In your handbooks are the specific charter sections where it talks, where it's pulling a reference from the charter or the Boulder Revised Code. So this language here on this slide, this is the language from the charter, and anywhere it says shall, this means this is a must. It's a gotta of your function. And so if we were to dispose of parkland, any expenditures from one of our funds, you'll learn more about those later. Those require the support of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So we could not sell a park without the approval of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And you shall make recommendations regarding the protection and maintenance of park lands. And then our attorney has added below here, there's just other general advisory board functions around just a diverse perspectives. And we'll talk more about that with some of the mays. Other shalls, you approve permits or licenses on parkland that are greater than 1 year. And so if a lease of parkland is less than a year, it's approved at the staff level. Between 1 and 3 years, it's the purview of PRAB. If it's beyond 3 years, it requires PRAB plus city council. So if we sign a 10-year agreement for a lease at Flatirons Golf Course, you all would be a part of that review process. And one of your functions is that you shall make recommendations concerning our annual budget. So that's why you all are involved heavy now, April, May, June, on developing the budget, so that what goes into the internal city budget development for a budget to council has your approval. Feel free to ask questions at any time, and I'll pause at certain moments too. This is where we get into the maze. At the request of city council or the department, you may prepare and submit recommendations on other matters. This is the bulk of your agenda. We're developing a project, we're developing a new policy, and we want your input as the appointed representatives of the community. And so that's the bulk of what we'll bring to you, areas where we really want your advice and counsel on something that we're developing. You may request information from us. And as that's a may, we may say, yep, we'll get that calendared, and Bernie will talk in a minute about what that looks like. We might also say, we're not going to be able to do that. So for example, examples always get me in trouble. There's an issue in our community in the last few years regarding property in South Boulder called CU South that involved a purchase of property with the University of Colorado annexation and then land use. Parks and Recreation and Department had no function in that process. We might in the future as recreation amenities are developed. It was very contentious in our community, several ballot issues. We had a member of PRAB who wanted that to be brought onto the Parks and Rec agenda so that they could discuss it. And so we just worked hard with the chair and vice chair to say that is not the purview of the PRAB. We're not going to be bringing that to this board. So that's just an example of that's the one I've been working closely with the PRAB for over 13 years. That's the one example I can think of where the board wanted to discuss something and then it was just a flat no. Sometimes it might be a board member is interested in something and the calendar is full. And so it's more about finding time for it, which is when we'll work with the chair and vice chair to figure out how to fit that in the agenda. Any questions? All right, legal cautions. These sound so much better coming from the attorney. Andy was really sad. He messaged me yesterday. He said, Allie, I've been so sick for days. There's no way I'm making it tomorrow night. We said, fine. If you have questions I can't answer, we're going to ask Andy to come back and do a spotlight. I mentioned this earlier. You cannot perform any administrative functions of the department. And so, you know, you wouldn't operate as a lifeguard. You wouldn't, you know, jump into GIS analysis of something. Like those are the functions of staff. And there's a risk if you were to get too involved with administrative functions, you don't have the same protections as a city employee. You are protected in ways, but it's different. And then the other thing Andy would say is just as members of the PRAB, you are representatives of the city, which can create risks and responsibilities. And so one of the things that will come up a little bit later in meeting management and communication is talking about open records compliance and the chain of communication. I believe, who's been to the clerk's office orientation already? They cover that a lot in that one. Okay, I'm not going to duplicate it here. So there's another orientation coming up from the clerk's office where the city attorney herself, Teresa Tate, I think gives that overview of open records compliance, open meetings compliance, which are really important to uphold the public trust. So thank you so much for your time and just paying attention to those. So the department's role is also spelled out in the charter. We shall supervise, administer, and do all the functions that you're going to learn a lot about. So executing, I tell people, city council is the legislative branch. And in our council manager form of government, we're the executive branch. So we are the doers of the policy. We submit written recommendations on those matters that require your approval. So if we were to be disposing of parkland, you would get a full staff analysis to help support your decision-making on that matter. At the request of PRAB, we can prepare and submit information for you. And we might request your advice on really any parks and recreation matter. So organization and procedure, this is also spelled out in the charter. So this part, you have a handbook in front of you and it spells out the charter. And then some of it is just your modes of operations, which are not in the charter or the Boulder Revised Code. They're just the ways in this approved handbook that the PRAB has said, this is how we're going to operate. So in the charter, you select a chair, you have a regular meeting once a month. If you are going to have a special meeting for an emergency nature, this has happened once in my 13 years, 3 members can call that with at least 24 hours notice to both board members and the community. Takes 4 members to make a quorum. We ask that if you're not going to make a meeting, you let us know as soon as you know so that we can plan accordingly, especially if there's an action item. But we can't even have a meeting without at least 4 folks. That's why the 7 is really helpful, but we also try and make sure that we avoid major holidays. We're thoughtful about summer and what that means for families. PRAB has the power to make reasonable rules for the conduct of its business. That's your handbook. That's one of the powers that you have in the charter is that you can make reasonable rules for the conduct of your business.
I would just add to this that we do sometimes have meetings like this one where it's not a regular meeting, it's not an emergency meeting, we find it in advance, but it is additional to the other meetings.
It has to be noticed, right?
Correct.
I made available.
Yes.
So it's Zoom.
Yep, and so that's why we will always have the meetings available through Zoom. That's one of the benefits that we've learned since 2020 is we actually get better public participation when we don't tell folks you've got to come downtown at 6 o'clock on a Monday night. Okay, so this next section is yours, Bernie. Should we pause on just roles? Were there any other questions on any of that?
I'm just curious, what was the emergency measure that they called for?
In the summer of 2021, there was concern around a lease we had for a restaurant operation at Boulder Reservoir. And there had been some threats and actions against some special events that were going to be happening. And the PRAB called a meeting and passed a resolution to support the work of the department in that partnership.
So maybe this will be covered later, but communication wise, it all goes through you. So
If you're talking to our staff, I always want to be copied for two reasons. One, I'm the official liaison to the board, but second, as the director, I'm the one who can help say, I appreciate you wanting that information from Megan. I'm aware of her workload and that's not on her workload, right? Like, so it is if you are needing information from staff, you'll start with me. Yeah. If it's an administrative question, you will have that PRAB admin email. And the reason we use that email versus say Clarissa's is because if Clarissa's gone, if she's sick, if she's on vacation, there's multiple people who have that email address and can support you with whatever that might be.
And if it's to the community, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to copy anybody. You can just, but that'll come up later also. Rules go along with that, right?
Say that again around the just open records compliance. Is that what you're talking
If
about?
you're talking to the community, you don't have to copy staff.
No.
Yeah, you can just have that communication.
Yep.
But the rules for that communication will come up later.
They're covered in their onboarding with the clerk's office. We don't get into that here because it's how to communicate open records compliance. That's all in the training. Yeah, good.
More like, I guess, in our last onboarding, kind of something that I thought was interesting was if you have a very strong opinion about something and you're speaking to a community member, maybe either in person or online, you're representing the Parks Department. So if you say something like, I completely agree that, we have to, like South Boulder Rec is one where I feel like you want to be very careful what you promise, because you might say, we're going to get this on the agenda and we're going to get it built next year. You can't say that. That's not part of our agenda or in the budget or, so those kind of things, you just have to be careful with what you say to the public. You don't want to promise anything that the staff can't deliver or is not even nearly close to the plan.
And of course, like we understand that, we all have personal opinions, right? I certainly do. And I think it's okay to represent those if you're talking to members of the community, but it's just important to distinguish what is your opinion versus what is the perhaps consensus opinion. And to differentiate what you may be saying on behalf of yourself versus behalf of the PRAB. A couple of years ago, I guess it was just whatever. Some point in my time in the PRAB, we were asked to weigh in on whether or not Central Park should be landmarked. And we came up with a consensus opinion and position. And then I was asked to go to City Council and relay that, not my opinion, but the consensus position. And that is something that will come up or may come up periodically. But just something to keep in mind.
So I'll build off that example. So on Central Park Historic District, on the same night, Rob could go to public comment and say, this is Rob Kaplan. I'm a member of the PRAB speaking on my own behalf and not representing the board. You do not lose that First Amendment right to speak to city council or to speak to people. You just cannot portray, this is Rob, I'm a member of PRAB. Here's what we think, right? Because Bernie is speaking in a few moments to what the board has agreed is their consensus opinion.
And I will say, like, for what it's worth, I can't think of a time in the last 3 years that I've been around that there's been a highly divisive issue. I think generally we've been able to come to consensus, which is not required, but it is certainly helpful when we can speak with one voice and really mean it, especially when it may be controversial. Should we move on?
Yeah, no more questions?
One last quick one. I think Nuria was talking about getting emails, specific emails for us so that we didn't have to use our personal ones. It was on one of the onboardings. She just mentioned it.
Yeah, let me follow up on that. I know some members create a different email address so that, because to Jenny's point, if you're emailing with community member Gina, you can say whatever you don't want. You don't have to copy staff. It is public record. And so if there were to be an open records request saying, I want any advisory email, there might be an open records request for emails of advisory boards related to the South Boulder Rec Center. That is subject to open records compliance. They would have access to those emails to make it easy. Like I know, I think Jenny has Jenny Robbins PRAB, and that's the email she uses for PRAB business. But if Nuria mentioned a city email, let me look into that and follow up.
I do also have a Pratt email that I just made on Gmail for myself. It's very easy to do that.
Yeah,
It's not.
I was just curious.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the way that these meetings run. We go to the next slide.
Yep, there you go.
So as I mentioned, we will, at our next meeting, be electing a chair and a vice chair. The chair, vice chair, the director of Parks and Rec, and our crowd support, Clarissa, make up the agenda setting meeting. Typically, we meet Monday and the agenda setting meeting happens later that week, Wednesday or Thursday, barring scheduling changes. So the agenda setting meeting will take in input that happened during Monday's meeting, but also if Rob has an item he really wants to be on the next month's meeting, you would want to make sure that you told a member of the agenda setting committee, hey, I'd really like to discuss the aquatic milfoil reservoir this summer or next meeting or whatever, and then it would be up to the chair or the vice chair or whomever you told to bring that to the agenda setting meeting. Ali's point from earlier, not everything we want to discuss gets onto the agenda as quickly as we would like. And it's up to the agenda setting committee to prioritize and look at what else we have coming up and what other projects maybe plan to discuss, how much time we have to dedicate to the budget, whatever else it may be. But generally, I should say, as when I was the vice chair last year, I made it a priority to make sure that everyone's interests were represented on the agenda. We should do that. We are able to do that and also balance the things that we are obligated to discuss, like the budget. But that's just kind of the process and an overview. Is you make your request to the agenda setting committee. The committee brings it to the agenda setting meeting, and then it gets onto the agenda hopefully within a meeting or two, sometimes 3. A fair overview?
It's perfect. The piece I would add is that the limiting factor is time. We have found this board meeting starts at 6 and that after 9, it's not productive. And so some meetings go longer, right? Like council is a 4-hour meeting almost every time. And sometimes they vote to extend their meeting even later. Planning board almost always goes till 10 o'clock. This board, the business, the cadence, the enthusiasm we have found drops drastically between 8:30 and 9. And so we're really we do our best to project how long is a presentation going to be for this? How long do we think the board's going to talk about it? And that's the meeting management piece of, oh, we thought this was going to be a 30-minute discussion. We're going on 45. And it just means whatever is calendared later in the meeting isn't going to get the attention and brain power that we want it to have.
So you're always welcome to email Ali if you have questions about a particular topic or you are wondering when something may come to us. Ali may bring that to a future meeting. She may bring that to agenda setting. And then I'm actually not sure what we mean by private information discussion.
I think it's the verbal under matters from the past. That'll come on the next slide too.
Okay. Oh, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. Let me just add one note also. Those of you who are, customers of the recreation center or pickleball players, please continue as you would any community member. If there is a broken door in the bathroom, email anyone, anytime, right? Don't hold that for a PRAB meeting. Sometimes I, would hear from a PRAB member, I noticed, a broken door in the bathroom. That's not a PRAB matter. That's a customer matter. And we want to know right away if you happen to have an experience while you're a customer in the parks or in the recreation facility. So just know that don't hold those for a PRAB meeting. We would expect any community member to let us know anytime if they're having an issue.
Okay, so agenda overview. Each month you'll get a packet the week before our meeting. Sometimes it's quite long, so you'll want to be prepared for that. I was shocked when I got my first 175-page packet. If I can read this. So the top of the agenda is the consent agenda, which is, as you can read, simply pretty straightforward items that are more for awareness. You're always welcome to bring questions about the consent agenda to the meeting, and we will discuss as needed. Typically, Ali is the staff member on that, and she's always prepared to answer questions and lead discussion. But the hope is that the items contained in there are non-controversial, and we can just kind of quickly adopt and move on. I would go a step further to say if something's in the consent agenda that generates a lot of discussion, it probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. And that's something that we can think about in agenda setting. That hasn't happened in a meaningful way. Public comment is pretty straightforward. It's the public is always welcome to our meetings to address us, talk about issues that are concerning them. In the past couple of years, we've had a lot of comment about South Boulder Rec, about pickleball. Those are probably the two most common. And then, and like aquatics. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I will say, like, this isn't planning board where we get hours and hours of testimony from the public. Typically it'll be a couple of people. I think one time we listened to like an hour and a half of testimony about the rec center. Let's see, action items. I guess I will also mention, outside of meetings, you are likely to get emails from the community. Should you receive one, don't do what I did when I got my first one and forwarded it to each member of the board, forwarded to Ally, and staff can distribute it. We're not allowed to communicate peer-to-peer in groups of more than one to one person. That'll be covered in the clerk's training. Let's see. Action items are things that we are going to be voting on. We don't have these every meeting, but when they come to us, they will get their own spot on the agenda. We'll have plenty of time for discussion. We will have relevant staff expertise in the meetings with us to help with those discussions. And then we'll vote as needed. Matters from the department are usually not usually, they are updates on larger projects. For instance, we have a substantial update on the future of rec center work that's happening. I think that's calendared for our May meeting. Yeah, so coming up soon. And that will be Megan and other members of that project team will be giving us a lengthy presentation about where that project is, what's planned, what's scoped, the top line budget estimates. We'll have plenty of opportunity to grill Megan with all of our many questions, including our own questions we're getting from the community, questions that the presentation brought up, et cetera, et cetera. That will be a substantial agenda item each month. And there will be months where we have multiple matters from the department that we need to give a lot of consideration and weight to. And then matters from the board is usually how we close the night, and it is fairly informal. It's an opportunity for us to just bring whatever we'd like to the crowd. It is often a time just for us to talk about how we've interacted with parks lately. And it's not tied to any specific action in that meeting. It may generate an action item in the future, but the close of business of one meeting is just an opportunity for us to say, this is my prep thing that I've got on my own mind this month. So that's a quick agenda overview. Any questions on how the agenda runs?
So just question about the consent agenda. Is it possible to ask that something be taken off the consent agenda? Or
And like move into another part of the.
Yeah, or does that then become an action item?
It is possible to do that. We start each meeting by approving the agenda, and if there was something that we wanted to amend, you would have the opportunity to say, actually, I would prefer that we take item 17B and move it to the matters from the board for more discussion, and we could then vote to do that or not do that.
Okay.
As a courtesy to staff, if you see something when the packet comes out that you think you'd want to talk out, a heads up would be great so that we have the appropriate subject matter expert available, or just to help prepare for whatever the interesting conversation is.
Cool, thanks.
What other questions do you have?
I want to call it, we missed something, discussion items. If you are going to take action on something, so is it June or July that they take action on the budget now? Is it July? So in July, you will be, this is a big meeting, you will be approving our capital improvement program, which includes certain expenditures over which you have authority. We will pose the June item as a very robust discussion item. It is always our goal that when we bring you something for action, it's what we call a clean read, meaning you had plenty of opportunity to ask questions. We addressed your concerns. And so when you bring it for action, it's a brief conversation and you're prepared to take action. So we'll always try and proceed it with a discussion item. It's very rare that you would see something on action that didn't have that discussion opportunity at a meeting prior, and it would be a reflection of some kind of sense of urgency.
Thanks.
So sorry, we missed that.
Is there anything else in this section, or are we done with the meeting overview?
Yeah, that's it. That's it for that section. So any other questions on how the meetings operate, how things get on the agenda?
Or anything else we've talked about so far?
Yeah, we're doing good on time, folks. So if you have a question, someone else might be thinking it.
I was just gonna give an example kind of the consent agenda. So the consent agenda, just to clarify, since that was brought up, so the consent agenda is usually the approval of the last minutes, updates from Ally, operations updates, and then our planning, design, and construction updates. So that's all. It's usually page like 3 through 11 of the agenda. So it's like they mentioned, it's pretty, non-controversial items and stuff like that. So to me, that was the most confusing part. And Elliot told me it was his fault that it was so confusing to me. He moved everything into the consent agenda, just kind of moved the meeting. So it gives you the opportunity up front as you look through the agenda. Before the meeting, you could take a look at that, page 1 through 11-ish, decide if there's something you want to ask questions on and kind of familiarize yourself with that. So that's kind of the consent agenda. And that stays the same almost every time. It's almost
The structure of
the
it, the
structure of it,
content, yeah.
It often gets longer or shorter.
And the intent really is we find we've gotten input from board members. People find out you're on PRAB and they're going to expect you to be experts on all the things. Or you now as a member of PRAB, you care more about all the things. And so you want to know about events we have going on. We want to let you know about operational changes. So for example, in your April consent agenda, Megan and Scott are working on an update on swimmer safety that has been implemented that we think you should know about. And so it's things that we think are either operational, but we think you want to know about it. And so that's what, when we say non-controversial, we don't need your input. We find, we've had requests from board members. Can you give us an update on every site and every project and every program? We cannot, right? Like that's just not a doable do, but we certainly can try and give you updates on notable activities, events, or changes.
last month was all the summer hiring and all the positions. And so it's just really informational, good stuff.
So Scott has a connecting movement activity for us for a few minutes.
We're ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
This is great. And I know we already did some introductions, which is awesome, but I'm going to ask everyone to move out into the main hallway. If we
We're excited about that. And we don't, Clarissa, I see only 3 participants. We have no members of the public watching, right? Okay,
don't.
good. So we're not making sure that,
Check
well, I want to
before.
make sure we're not creating a barrier. Do we need to move the computer?
I think we're good.
What's that? This? You've not heard all this. Yeah.
All right, well, everyone has already started to look at the postcards. So
Or steal them.
you had a hint, right?
That's right.
So these are postcards of the 63 national parks that the United States has. And so I'm sure in your time here on this, I'm not just meeting the parks. You all join the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and obviously parks are a big part of what we do. And so what I wanted to do to connect a little bit more deeply is give you all about 3 minutes to pick one of the cards. You can pick a card that you just like the picture, you can pick a card that you've been to, or you can pick a card, of something, a place you want to potentially go to at some point. So we'll give you about 3 minutes to pick a card. Staff, you can pick a card as well, if you'd like. Jenny knew right away. Is it the same one you took earlier? You switched? Okay, okay.
Actually was looking for a different one, but I didn't find it. This is new.
If this is your card, no, you don't need to hide it.
And I don't know if that's just do a favor.
So I'm looking for our.
Thank you, yeah. Kind of a pain in the ass, but it's pretty fun.
It's really out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I know, I feel a lot better now.
Yeah.
Everything. My dog, we have my dog.
What's happening? I'm trying to eat.
Was it hot over there?
It's not orange.
It's not orange.
Yeah.
It wasn't too hot. It was, we were there for spring break, so no one else is gonna want this one. It was maybe 16 degrees.
Which one? Oh, gosh, have you been there?
Yeah. Oh, it's Sandra's favorite.
Is it really?
You gotta get a card.
Am I the last one? I was trying to,
You are, I'm
Oh.
not taking a card, so.
you're not taking a card.
Facilitates the
I am not
discussion.
taking a card, but I do love national parks, and so one of the things that I wanted to do, so we've done introductions, we've heard a little bit about you all, but we want to know a little bit more about your card. So you all made the conscious decision to pick a postcard. Tell us about what that card means to you. It might be just something simple, something cool. And then we want you to talk for just a minute about parks and what parks mean to you, and a little bit more of why you decided to join the board. So Michael, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Great.
Yep, I picked Grand Canyon National Park. For me, it's an almost mystical place. You can sit on the rim and watch the colors change. It's just an incredible place, really soothing too. And it's amazing to get there, to go back from there, looking at the faces and everything else. So parks to me mean just a place to, like refresh yourself, to become aware of, maybe more aware of what your surroundings are, and just catch up on the beauty of it and what can be a really meditative almost experience.
So I picked Isle Royale. I don't know if you guys have even heard of this one. So this is the least visited, but most revisited national park in the US. So it's in Michigan, a small island. So you have to take either a boat or a seaplane to get there. So I convinced some friends to go on a backpacking trip here. Some of the friends, it was their first time backpacking, which was an adventure in and of itself. But it was just such an amazing experience. Like, I love backpacking. I love being just like completely remote, at peace in nature, especially for multiple days at a time, because then you wake up and you see sunrise, and you're doing yoga as the sun sets over the lake. So it's a very memorable trip for me. And I think that says a lot about what parks mean to me. It's an experience of being in nature, and it's like that mindfulness that I think you can really get when you just feel really surrounded in peace. And I think the other part of it is that feeling of connection you can get with other people when you're experiencing nature together.
I picked Arches. I don't even know how to articulate how I feel about it, but it's, when I go to Arches, I feel so small. And to me, like, that's an amazing reflection, because it reminds me of just like, you're just blips on the screen right now, like the world, the history of the world, millions of years. Arches just reminds me that I'm here for a moment, and it's barely a blip on its time scale. And it just makes me feel so appreciative to, kind of like what you were saying, appreciating the moment, being in the moment, realizing like my life on planet Earth is just barely anything. And it's so important. That's why I'm wanting to serve on this board. Parks, nature are so important to our mental health, to help us understand and appreciate the world around us. And it's not just humans that are on this planet, but our ecosystems, and the tiniest little bug, little ladybug that you encounter. It's just an amazing thing, and it just reminds me of how to be more appreciative of being a human and having a time.
I picked Grand Teton National Park. I was there last year for the first time. I have a dear friend, fortunate for me, that has a home that overlooks the Tetons. But we did some extensive hiking in there, and I remember just, every time you go out, you're bringing your bear spray. And I actually just love being low on the food chain. It's like, not like I wanted it, it's just like, it just felt so primitive and like real and raw to me that I ate it up. And, you know, to some of the things that you guys said, no matter what's going on in your life, you go to a national park or you go to one of these beautiful places, it's such a reset for me, and it just gives me perspective, and it's like the most beautiful meditation I could ever hope for. So, yeah, amazing. But, yeah.
All of that. I have two kiddos, they're teenagers now, and we do our family visits, a lot of parks together, and I chose Redwoods for all the reasons you all have said, and if you've not been there, it's not just the trees, there are the most beautiful fern canyons and just magical hikes. One of the things I loved about that trip is it's actually not one park, it's a connection of a lot of disconnected state and then the national park areas, and then a visitor, it felt seamless. And I appreciated just the governance of all of that. And I know, like, here I am, the director of parks, and I'm not really the North governance part of it, but like that to me is the magic of parks. They're supposed to be free, they're supposed to be accessible to everyone, and we all get to benefit from all that they provide. And they're amazing. One of the best parts of our jobs is that we're not experts in one thing. I mean, we have folks on our team who are experts in solar and trees and yoga and, you know, just a million things. And it's a pretty magical thing to be a part of.
And Petrified Forest National Park. And so a few years back, my partner and I went, well, we did like a whole national park tour and went to a lot of different forests and parks and whatnot. And we went to Petrified Forest National Park, and it was just like a stop along the way. We didn't stay the night there or anything like that, but it was actually probably her favorite park because she loves like rocks and she loves the desert. And if you look there, like you would just look around, it's like nothing. But one thing that really connected with me there is that if you think about the amount of change a space like this had to go through to go from having these massive trees and life to just being, you know, what it is now, which is a lot of dirt, a lot of dirt and rock. And so it kind of sits with you like how small we kind of really are in the world.
I chose Arches National Park in St. Louis. My wife is from St. Louis, and this happens to be the last national park I visited because we took her nephews there last Christmas. In thinking about parks, my own time in parks and these postcards, like most of the national parks are about the great outdoor places, and this Humboldt Park is a reminder that parks are also intermixed in our urban lived spaces, which I think is very special because we all need places to get away and places to connect with our neighbors and our neighborhoods and come together as a community. And you know, our urban parks are an amazing way that we do that.
We chose Zion National Park. I got engaged there, so it is really special to me. It was supposed to be at the top of Angel's Landing, but it was full of ice at the top, which we were not aware. So tried to go up, slid down, fried. Yeah, did not. Sitting at the bottom of Angel's Landing. But yeah, that was a really beautiful place, and parks matter to me because I grew up around them, and it's the perfect place to get connected to their community. And that's pretty much where my friends and family go whenever we want to get together. So it's always special.
Well, hopefully I picked a very homestay favorite, Rocky Mountain National Park for all of us. I've been here many times. I've not been from this area and having a lot of family friends out on the East Coast. This is our go-to park, which is just a great place to connect with family, friends, connect with nature, and show up the state a little bit. So I've been there a lot of times.
I chose Yosemite National Park. I drove about an hour and a half from the valley floor, so I was there a whole lot. I worked as a backpacking guide just outside of the park in high school for summer camp. We go into the park for climbing as a fun day off activity. I think what I love and hate about parks is they're loved to death. I can't stand that there's a lottery permit system to get into parks, but I understand how important it is to protect your valuable assets. So let's get a permit anytime you can.
question is, are we gonna have permits? I don't know what the latest one is with us. What is the-
Great question.
I picked Great Sand Dune National Park, hopefully we'll listen. We were just there like 2 weeks ago for spring break. We stopped on the way up from Taos, we went skiing and I have 2 kids who are 12 and 14, a freshman at Fairview and a middle schooler, a 7th grader at Platt. And we took our 90-pound golden retriever who had never been on sand before. And if you've never been to Great Sand Dunes, it's a little bit of a pain because you have to kind of walk a long way in sand before you get to the actual dune. We rented the sleds and the girls sled down and it was really, really fun. And to me, parks, and I love what everybody kind of shows because when I think of parks, people think of it as like a grassy space. But really it's big hills of sand or a gigantic structure or trees or forest. In Boulder, it's Pearl Street Mall Park. So there's so many opportunities to look at parks as more than just a place where you might just play on a playground or something like that. And it's good to, I think it's good to appreciate all the different ways in which we can enjoy our parks and rec system as a city of Boulder and across the United States as well. Interesting.
That's a great transition. Thanks, Jen. One of the things that I noticed as we went around the room is the smiles on faces. Parks bring about emotions that are so positive, or I mean, you got engaged in a park, like things like that are really, really cool. And one of the things that we try and do in Boulder Parks and Rec is break down those barriers and create those same kind of experiences for all of our community members. And so as PREP members, you're gonna have the ability to really help us influence what we do in our park system. There's a lot of great projects going on that we're gonna get a dive into here pretty soon. And that passion, those emotions, I want you, we hope you bring those to the meeting. Share your opinions, share your ideas. And really, we're excited to have you all here because you make such a big difference. And we have some amazing parks and spaces in our community. And we want, especially for those that maybe don't have the resources to get to national parks, we want to bring those experiences right here into our community. And so I wanted to just share this activity and get people thinking in a positive way. And just, I hope you all are so excited for the advisory board and all the great work that you get to do. So, and you can take your postcard if you want. Couple of things that you might want to think about. I've had people do this before, but if you want to write anything on your postcard and hand it back to me at the end of the night, you're welcome to, and I can give it to you in a year, or when you get off the board, we can share that. If there's things that you're wanting to accomplish as a part of the board, or the impact that you're hoping to make, feel free to write it on there. You can address it to yourself and I can hang on to it. And we'll send it to you in a year or 2 or 3 or 4 when you get off the ground. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. I would recommend, we're ahead of schedule, folks. 5-minute movement potty break. If anyone needs to refuel, does that work for you? Okay, so 6:58. Bodies and chairs at 7:05.
Thanks. You can take your other ones if you want.
Really?
Yeah. Take it, absolutely.
I love going.
Yeah, if you all want to take any other ones, feel free to. There's definitely a great memory, so.
Beautiful.
Very welcome again.
Yeah, I don't know about
Next
that.
time you do this, all the good ones are gonna be gone and people are gonna have to get creative.
So there are 37 duplicates, so I have more parts in there. So the popular one is $18. So.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I've been working for more like late stage startups. What's most exciting for right now? Exciting. Not right now. Yeah, it's definitely like.
How's Cusco?
He's really good.
Yeah.
We're together now. It's definitely more
Good.
cute and less.
You got pictures?
Yes.
Of course.
But it's not ridiculous problems. Adorable. There's always like companies that are.
So-
That's like the best picture, but.
Oh, that's
I mean, there's a lot of, yeah.
They look like they're getting along great.
Yeah, that's good. The only thing is. Yeah, it's still doing it too. I'm trying to find like a. That's it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know.
They're like best of friends already.
There's a lot.
I know, it's
That's great.
The only thing is they still need to be supervised. The bigger cat doesn't realize a kitten, it's a small kitten.
But I just went with, but.
So did
Yeah.
I tell you about Nick's and the Fox?
Like we're working.
So
Environmental engineering.
I got Nick's back just the other day.
They kind of
And he's sitting at the window in my backyard.
They again are.
And it's early in the morning
Scared about.
and I look over and right outside the sliding glass door is a fox. And so the fox
Yeah.
is, and I took a bunch of pictures, but yeah, we had a, right there in the backyard, but he was right on the back deck,
Yeah.
ready to pounce.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah,
Something about. Something to me too. Sometimes are they protected.
yeah, the fox came running across the yard. But,
You know, you.
I just made me think I can't let Nick's out. If I let him out, he's gonna be toast.
But yeah.
Here, we say it's every time, where I can try to Google kitties or porcupines, things to put on their small dogs when they go.
Oh,
walking,
yeah.
and I guess they're just like, I can do that. You know, let's put them up. Food sources are limited, so,
It's
yeah.
scary, right?
It feels good to be at. It's all, it's I made the world.
I've seen bobcats. And I haven't seen a mountain lion yet, thank goodness, or a bear yet. Oh, I don't, but yeah, it's crazy. One time, so.
Okay. So you are on Lake Michigan, but it's an island. Let's look.
I represent mostly holiday animals.
Okay, so did you hear us? Okay.
No.
Actually, the reason we ended up in this.
I always have lists, but now I don't.
One of my friends.
Always wanted to go.
Yeah.
It's really damn.
Yeah, it was kind of like a, yeah, we're in.
So yeah.
Look at this.
You know, everybody in the design space.
We did, so spring break.
Construction world
Me
and.
too. We flew into San Francisco, we did a triangle, San Francisco. Tahoe.
Oh.
I mean, I can.
I've been up to the.
Yeah. It's such a cool area. I mean,
So great.
yeah, I would go back to spend more time there.
I guess it's on Lake Superior.
Yeah.
Association.
I mean, it was cool though, even in like Redwood City and San Mateo, which runs throughout that whole San Francisco area, like it's just southeast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see, I've never been that far north.
For
Yeah.
governments around.
It's so
the world.
because the city, I think that we stayed
Kind
in,
of like Americana, you know.
so we went,
Yeah,
like an hour, 2 hours north of that, but there's that whole north there, that's.
And then it's also nice for backpacking too.
But.
So I've been to Monterey.
Yeah.
Help you.
And then when you can see like.
Oh.
How to prioritize.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've driven through it, but not really been there.
But being able to prioritize.
So yeah, that's like. That's like UP is, yeah, you don't get it.
Right now, they just.
Yeah.
It's been a good experience, especially with what's going on with South Boulder.
Capitola, so when we were in San Francisco, we stayed with my husband's great uncle, his wife was from Capitola, and she was talking about, I mean, that whole area. The whole thing makes it awesome.
I remember we drove, part of that arrangement with the city was actually in Wisconsin, you didn't city.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was Haywood, one of those cities. I mean, I think. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they were recruiting. I was like, no, like I went to their webpage and the big, not that I'm looking just more clear, right? But like, I'm always curious about, they describe this job, what does it pay? Like on it, like big red text, like there was some kind of like something more, like, no.
They're involved. He was
Yeah.
my fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I need to be on medication. So we're, at that time, back, I mean, I visited San Francisco many times, I felt like.
I know exactly what it is.
And they're
They're super star. Part of it, pretty much, you know, like, just like.
I mean, that's the thing, it's like. She's super transparent.
Stage and they have like.
Yeah, I don't know. So you're part of the.
What do you like for?
I mean, I have a lot of friends.
And I could tell that at first glance.
Yeah.
What's the first part?
One note band.
I love it.
Neighbors.
Run clubs or-
Save some.
They're more
It's just-
like.
just
If they're
so you
climbers.
see-
Oh.
Do they climb the movement?
Yeah, it's South Connect.
No, when I say climbers, like.
Okay, like more
will
mountain.
go
So
that saves some
blocks and blocks out of my way to.
I'm gonna make, I know my friend John.
So the
who
South
is
Dakota
part of
Native
like.
Walk
So,
Band.
yeah, I think I'm glad that this is working.
I don't understand that.
I
it's-
an injury the day after, so I do have to this insurance to make sure.
Yeah, that's
If
right.
you-
How was it? Did you get to the ocean?
It's such a good question.
I saw it.
Oh,
It was one of those.
They were
things.
exposed to a transaction.
I
because
don't
it's
say
remember
so.
that one. Like I've done the Skyline.
And so they're-
Yeah.
Was it successful?
Yes.
It's a real long video.
Yeah,
Wake up at 5.
Yeah.
Finish it.
When did this
6
come?
hours later.
You couldn't have been 6 hours.
I don't know.
They
Okay.
can see you
Yeah.
walking.
It's just
properly.
funny, that's such a good way to-
I had realized.
Yeah. In the city, it was usually.
Truly is. But had I known I was married.
So I like to reserve myself.
Yeah.
So someone
Yeah.
could build,
No,
right?
it's gonna be
Yeah.
nice.
They're not worried about it.
So provide you these.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I think it's just like, you
I
know,
was like.
some reasons just like, if you're just like up and.
Yeah.
It's gonna end up not being very. Yeah, I guess.
Finished.
Yeah, I think people are saying.
It was a big editorial.
She don't want to wait for us.
Holistic feels.
She didn't-
I'm not calling her. No. I was actually like, she was ready.
For Genesis of.
No.
She just had to wait. She didn't have more food to give.
She just had to school bus.
And then she
Oh,
printed her.
Otherwise you just jump in there and goes wherever. Today was a good meeting. You know,
Yeah. And just very. I'm
All right, should we reconvene?
Yeah.
I need a
It's
gavel.
much more fun to get to know each other.
All right, let's get started. The next item on the agenda is going to be a Boulder Parks and Recreation overview. There's a lot in our department. We've got all the parks, we've got all the recreation. And there's so much underneath each of them. It took me a very long time to even feel like I was just starting to get to know how it all happens. So there's no expectation that we're going to learn everything tonight. We're going to get started. We'll get an overview. We're going to try and keep this discussion to 45 minutes. I'm sure that you all will have lots of questions, so we'll do our best to, Ally will do her best to address them while keeping on track. And then if you're not, there will be endless opportunities for more questions and discussions in future meetings.
And the other thing I'll note, I think all of you have scheduled a one-on-one with us where there's even more we want to just share with you and provide opportunity for questions. And so if we do start to get deep on something, we could just table it for when we have that one-on-one. Rob's the only one I've met with at this point. So Rob, you're welcome to email me if you need more time today. All right, let's dive in. So what we're going to do in this section, one of the things PRAB members often want to know about is the structure. How are we organized? Who's in charge of what? And so we'll give you that. Jackson and Stacy are going to give you an overview of the budget, which is super helpful because we're diving in at your first business meeting in April. We're going to talk about our work plan for the year and what we have planned so that you're aware of what's coming for us and for you and your agendas. And then you're going to wrap up with a conversation on just board liaisons. So that's what's ahead. We're going to dive in. And we sent you all this PowerPoint, right? You have this. That's great because this one might be handy for you. So we have 7 service areas. And I'll tell you about some of them, and then Scott will cover his unit. And so park operations is one, and they take care of about about 1,100 acres of parkland, because they do not have oversight for the Boulder Reservoir. So our park system is divided into 3 zones: north, central, and south. Super complicated. And so each of those has a team of folks that do everything from the turf maintenance to trash removal to some of the plant care to cleanup and a variety of maintenance. And we have a specialized irrigation team. So while most of the folks in the zones can do basic irrigation repairs, we have a highly skilled and specialized irrigation team that can design irrigation. They can adjust it. Most of our irrigation is on smart systems that not only has water sensors, but let's say PD needed us to turn irrigation on in the middle of the night to disrupt some youth activity. We can do that. We have a horticulture team. We have a much smaller flower program than we had 20 years ago. That's one of the services that was reduced in the recession 20 years ago. But we do still have a lot of flower beds throughout the system. More and more have native plants. They're waterways, they're xeriscape demonstration gardens, with the exception of the Pearl Street Mall, which per the design codes, they contribute so much to the economic vitality. If you've not been to Pearl in the past 2 weeks, I put it on your radar. The north side is completely in bloom and the south side's coming in hot. It gets a lot more building shade this time of year, so they come in second. And that is our central zone. We have a team of 4 that exclusively works on the Pearl Street Mall. We have a sports turf team, and they take care of the specialized turf at Mapleton, Pleasant View, Stasio, as well as the satellite fields that are located throughout the system, such as at North Boulder Park, where we have 2 Little League fields. And then finally, we have a group that takes care of just asset management. So we have an in-house carpenter. So if we have simple repairs or projects, we try to get to those right away. So let's say someone drove through a fence. That happens. We can often just fix that ourselves. A sign breaks, an arbor breaks somewhere. A lot of that, we try to have the in-house skill. We can repair it quicker and often cheaper than outsourcing that. Jackson is going to actually, he'll tell you about his team in the budget section and all the functions that you all do, if that works. We have a planning team in-house. So this is a group that focuses on planning, which is looking at the system over the next 5, 10, 50 years. What do we need to meet the needs of the community? You heard mentioned, some of you are familiar with the Future of Recreation Centers project that Mark and Megan and Scott are working closely with Mark and his team to see how we make sure the rec centers serve the community for the next 50 years. So they also do the capital improvement program, and that's how any project over $50,000 is considered a capital project. And one of your purview items as part of the budget, you'll look at that capital spending for the next 5 years. You approve the next years of spending. So in the budget process, 2026 actually gets appropriated or approved for spending. Everything else is just a projection. I mentioned long-term planning. They do even more in asset management. So imagine in the zones, they're looking at individual sidewalks. Through the asset management program, we're looking at sidewalks across the system and trying to organize and bundle the work so that it can be most efficiently done. Our GIS system gives us the data for almost everything we do in the system as it relates to asset management and planning. So it gives us data on how many benches do we have. We have an incredible GIS data system for our trees. We have over 50,000 public trees. Every single one of them is mapped and tagged in our system and has information on its health, its diameter. We do a tree survey every year where we update that information. And then we have an in-house construction team that goes even beyond what the carpenter and park ops can do, and they can actually do small projects. We have a natural resources team. So forestry, you've heard me talk multiple times about trees. The city has over 50,000 public trees, from the parks to the rights of ways to what are called street trees. So if there is a tree on your private property that is within, I believe it's 5 feet of the public right of way, that's actually considered a public tree, and we will take care of it because of the impact on the public realm. The natural lands team, this is our undesigned system. So think of Wonderland Lake. That's a bad example because that's open space mountain parks. I was thinking about that as an example where you could see the developed park on the north side and then everything natural around it, but open space manages that one. Except for the stuff to the south. So between Wonderland Lake, and if you can picture where the water storage container is right at Linden and Fourth, if you bike or walk in there, that whole natural area is Parks and Recreation managed. The Urban Park Rangers, this has been a program that returned to our department as of 2022. We have 3 full-time rangers and 2 temporary rangers who are with us 9 months a year. And they specifically work in the urban park system to help promote safety in the parks. Their most frequent complaints are around off-leash dogs and unticketed, unplanned, unpermitted events or activities. And we do often have challenges with illegal camping in the parks. That is, you'll actually get a deep dive on that topic this summer. And then this area also specializes in climate resilience and how do we make sure the urban park system can stand up to and mitigate against the challenges of climate change. And so those 4 folks and Scott all report to me, and Scott's going to talk about his area.
Okay, sounds good. We'll come back to Jackson later when.
With budget. Yep.
Perfect. So I've got 3 senior managers that report to me, and I'll let Megan talk about her area a little bit further in depth. But the first one is led by Brian Beery, and it's community building and partnerships. And this is a lot of our programs that we offer within the department. Hopefully you've heard of our Expand program. Our Expand program serves a huge portion of the community with disabilities, and they are very involved. In fact, they've got a tremendous reputation, and we have people coming from all over the region to come and participate in our Expand programming, which is really neat. We have an incredible staff that are really talented and do a phenomenal job of working with folks. Our YSI program is our Youth Services Initiative. That team is really activating spaces throughout our community. They actually go out and meet people where they're at. You'll hear quite a bit more about Primos Park later on this when we talk about CIP, and they were very involved in the process of really trying to help determine the name for that space that PRAB actually approved, which is really exciting. We also have youth camps and youth programs that we're hoping to do some work on. I'll talk about it a little bit later on with some of the programming work that we're going to do this year. But our camps are extremely popular and they fill up very quickly, and certainly a great resource for community members. Then we've also got, I'm trying to look at my writing here. I don't have my glasses. Oh, volunteers. So volunteers is the next area. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities within Boulder Parks and Recreation. And I will say that we've had, I believe, over 1,600 volunteers last year that come out and participate and help us throughout our entire park system and the community in general. So that's really exciting. And then partnerships. And we work with our Play Foundation, which is our philanthropic organization. Jenny actually sits on that board, and we're really excited to work with them and work very closely with them. We've also got a partnership committee that we're focused on this next year to really try and expand partnerships throughout the community and really try and break down some of those barriers for community members not knowing where to go to find different services within the community. Erin Simone is our senior manager over regional facilities. Our regional facilities include the Boulder Reservoir. Hopefully you've all had a chance to check out the Boulder Reservoir. It's an incredible location. You've heard a little bit about rowing and some of the things that have happened out there. Bernie mentioned earlier our ANS and our Eurasian water milfoil that we're actively trying to treat out there and manage. And there's just a lot happening. Here in the last month, we signed an agreement with Rocky Mountain Paddleboard to provide concessions and food service for the summer out there. So we're super excited about that. And always a lot of great things happening at the reservoir. They do a ton of events and really a popular location. Flatirons Golf Course. So just today, we started a new director of golf, started with the city of Boulder. David DiMartino joined our team today, and he will be leading the Flatirons Golf Course. We opened a facility out there last, September. Beautiful restaurant, Ironwood Bar and Grill. It's open to the public all the time. And so if you haven't had a chance to go out there and eat yet, I would encourage you to do so. It's phenomenal. So Really good food, really great environment, and a great place. And the course is really top notch. We're doing a really great job of activating the space. We've got a ton of tournaments, and we're looking to expand some of our lesson play out there as well. The next area would be Valmont Bike Park. And so Valmont is an incredible bike park. Ellie, what year was that built?
2012.
2012. It's still one of the premier bike parks in our state and really across the country. It's a phenomenal location and it's free to the public. And so we do offer programming out there quite a bit in the summer. And it's just really a beautiful location. The next areas that we have on there is our sports and events. And so this also includes our sports field and our turf that we manage and maintain. And we have quite a few adult sport programs. And then we have a lot of contracted programs that we work with to provide youth sports. We have groups that rent our fields, and then we have groups that we work directly with in contract to provide services for youth in the community. And so the other piece of that is special events and activating our spaces and having different movies in the park or different happenings throughout the year. So those are the areas that I oversee, and I'll let Megan talk real briefly about what she does with recreation.
Sure. So I get to help provide the services at the recreation centers. And so, the North Boulder Rec Center on this side of town serves a large percentage. It's the closest rec center to a lot of the public here, the East Boulder Community Center and then the South Boulder Rec Center. And then in a few weeks here, we'll have Scott Carpenter pool open for the start of like the shoulder lap season out there. And then once we get into the heart of summer, we'll have the leisure pool and the lap and leisure pool at Spruce Pool open too. So, and then all of your health and wellness stuff. So if you ever come to the centers and do drop-in classes, whatnot, that's my team that gets to do that fun stuff.
Any questions on that before we move on?
This is extremely helpful. I did not know half of these things. Like the breakdown of the way that this is all, like the specific breakdown is so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually, I'll build on that. 80% of what we do, you'll never hear us talk about because it's what we do, right? It's the operational nature, and what you hear about are the plans, the projects, the budget.
One thing that I think would be helpful, Scott, is, you use the term regional park. You just kind of like define broadly what that means, as well as then the two other levels of parks that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Regional parks are really a kind of a destination location. People come from all over the state to go to the Boulder Reservoir, to play golf at Flatirons Golf Course, or to visit Belmont Park. And so, those are originally our real regional areas. I would also say our civic area is very much a regional location in the Pearl Street Mall. People come from all over Colorado to come visit the Pearl Street Mall. So we can really, I don't know if you want to break down the different levels of parks.
So regional parks, we have what we call a park classification system, and it's important because it determines what we build there, how much we invest in it, how we staff it, levels of service. So below regional parks are community parks. We have East Boulder Community Park, Harlow Platts, and Foothills Community Park. Those parks, if you think about the three of them, they have parking, they have restrooms, they have significant amenities, and it's where we schedule a lot of activity. So practices and games. North Boulder is in between with a neighborhood park and a community park. It doesn't quite have the parking in the way that the others do. And so we don't schedule activities in the same way. It's like a weird hybrid, a special hybrid, I should say. So those parks also see a higher level of maintenance. I'll note this, someone brought up Pearl Street earlier. Pearl Street is up there in that mode 1 category. We are out there every morning making sure that the bricks are clean. That is not the same level of service we provide at the community parks or the neighborhood parks. So below a community park is a neighborhood park, and those range in size. And so in my neighborhood, or someone tell me where they live in Boulder.
Gun Barrel.
So in Gun Barrel,
I'm sorry, I know.
She's sorry.
I was like, oh no.
Gun Barrel was developed with a lot of HOAs. And so there is Eaton Park there. We also own property in the unannexed portion of Gun Barrel. Should the rest of it ever want to be a part of the city, we'll be ready with a park. They've said no lots of times, the parts that are not. So in the Table Mesa neighborhood, gosh, which corner of Table Mesa and Broadway are you?
I'm at Glass Beef.
Oh, you're in the South Boulder
Fancy.
neighborhood. So you're right
Yeah.
by Harlow Platts.
Yeah,
But in
right
that
across.
same neighborhood is Bear Creek Park, right? So Bear Creek Park does not have restrooms, does not have parking. You won't see us schedule activities at that park. It is meant to serve people walking by, close to home neighbors. Some of those have trash cans, some don't. And so just the level of amenities you have, the park classification is really important. So when I get an email from a community member saying, I noticed there was gravel under the bleachers at North Boulder Park. I say, yeah, I hear you. You know, it's March. We thought the park looked great. It's not our expectation that those walks are clean every day, nor are we funded to provide that level of service. It's just a really helpful way to explain to people our expectations, because the community's expectations are very high. I got an email from someone who wanted to know why we hadn't edged the grass in Palo Park recently. That's a small neighborhood park. It doesn't get that level of service.
Thanks, Ally.
Yeah, it's got. All right.
Just a quick question, like on Pearl Street, around Pearl Street, if there's like a sidewalk issue or a tree issue, that's a parks, or is that utilities?
It depends. So trees.
Yeah.
If they're on Pearl Street and they're on city property, it is our forestry team that takes care of them. And there's a lot of them in the central business area that are public trees. There are also others that I'm a property owner. I developed a property, code required me to plant and irrigate trees. I'm now responsible for the care of that tree. Something we're working on is improving the enforcement of that, because what happens is 10 years down the road, that irrigation broke, that tree died, and now there's just a dead tree, and that's not serving anyone well. Sidewalks also, it depends, just like our private property in our homes, there are areas where the sidewalk is your responsibility and there's areas where it's the city's. Downtown is really complicated. We're working on making it less so, because there's just a lot of attention on conditions downtown.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
You had to pay for your sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? All right, Jackson and Stacy are going to give an overview of the budget. This chart is one I would recommend just keeping handy, because it is really helpful to know as we talk about the different funds. They do have different uses and restrictions, and it's one of the critical factors that inform what and how we do.
Perfect. So we're gonna go through it really quick. You do have this handout in front of you. We also have some slides that we'll talk to it as well. Up here is just a reminder as far as the One Boulder approach. Everything that we do with the budget on the next slide is really informed by all of these different plans that Allie's gonna give a little bit more of an overview on later. On the next slide, it really talks about the budgeting for resilience and equity. The long-term financial strategy is the LTFS, and then the 22 BPR plan is the department plan that was adopted by PRAB and City Council back in 2022. That is something we'll give you an overview on as well, it looks like. So within this, there's all sorts of different things that we relate all of our budget requests back to, basically making sure that we align with everything that was on that diagram before. That is the citywide strategic mission, the department master or the department plan, and then everything that we also talked about in the charter and municipal code.
Jackson, I was just smiling. On page 101 of your department plan is an acronyms list.
Okay.
So our team works really hard on plain language and translating acronyms, and we do not always remember. And like good government people that we are, we love a good 3-letter acronym. And so you see a few up here. There are others that are on this page of the department plan, and we try to always, the first time we use those, explain it, and then the rest of the memo you'll see it just in its acronym form.
What's BRE?
That is budgeting for resilience and equity. It's the citywide approach to budgeting, making sure that we're considering sustainability, equity, resilience into everything that we're doing.
It's outcome-based budgeting, and it was a plan that we are on our 4th year. It took 3 years of implementation. We've gone through the implementation phases, and now it's a standard practice for the city.
SARE goals are sustainability, equity, and resilience. There are 7 goals that the city has tried to identify everything around. We fall within livable and environmentally sustainable. There are other areas that we touch, but we'll touch on that as we get into the budget process. This is the high-level overview today.
Why is it 1, 2, 3?
Those are just different things that we are relating back to.
Not one's more important than the other.
No, not at all. I think what you see at the bottom is everything goes back to citywide strategic planning. So that's related back to what's on city council's strategic plan for the next 2 years, what is coming from the city manager's office, what is coming from our central finance department. So there's a lot of different considerations that go into creating the budget. On the next slide, we really get into our funds, and we're going with Perm Perks first. Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund, it's second to the last column on the right-hand side. This is our dedicated property tax that the board does have purview over. It is one of the shells that's called out in the charter. All of this is a dedicated property tax, 0.9 mils, that has to be used for the acquisition, renovation, or improvement of parkland. So this is our probably most restricted fund that we do rely on. I know a lot of folks will complain about property taxes. Do want to clarify that for every dollar paid in property taxes, 1 cent of that goes to Parks and Recreation for this fund. You will hear most about this. It's predominantly used for capital improvement plan. So you'll hear about it as part of the CIP, and this is what we'll be asking for your recommendation and approval of those funds for at the July meeting.
And the 4.9 or 4.4,
that's the amount of revenue that's received, and then the 3.
Annually?
Correct.
Yes, so the top part on your fund chart is budgeted or appropriated revenue for 2025. And it will highlight on those pie charts where those funding sources are coming from. And then on the bottom below that, those pie charts and numbers are showing you what is appropriated for our expenses. So our uses of our funds. So
and what about the rest of it? So the million, so there's 4.4 that comes out of the Parks and Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund, and then 3.3 spent?
Correct.
Yes, so projected revenue for 2025 in the budget is that 4.4 million. And then what was actually put in for expenses and what the department expects to spend in 2025 is the 3.4 million.
And where does the other million go?
You'll see with most of these, we don't do a true budgeted balanced budget between revenue and expenses on a yearly basis because we are looking 6 years in the future. So with this fund, just because we have capital expenses, we will save up for a year or two and then rely on that for a bigger project.
So it's savings.
It's savings.
Okay.
It will still be used. It's not being taken back to the general fund or put towards other purposes. It's truly programmed in out years for a larger CIP project.
So for example, the building at the Flatirons Golf Course was about 7 million. We saved for 3 years to be able to spend it in 1 year. So you'll see years where, you know, we bring in 4.4, but we're going to spend 7.
Mhm.
And it's because
Oh,
we're
got it.
using fund balance also
Got
to budget that year.
What's the fiscal year?
January 1 to December.
Okay, so
31st.
calendar year.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great questions.
And I will say that within the department plan, we do have all 5 funds listed out on pages 88 to 89, I believe.
Scott wins for bringing it so that we can keep reference.
So
Unless someone remembers the pages off the top of their head. Yeah, it is 46 and 47. I think it's last year's plan. But the same summary of sources and uses is in the plan, and you could just fold this and walk around with it. Always have the information at your fingertips.
So that does really go over our 5 different funds. We'll talk through the other funds that the PRAB is still has purview over, but not as much purview charted. So the general fund is shared with all city departments, most city departments. This is the most flexible source of citywide funding, and it really supports more of our forestry, park operations, our urban ranger program, and then department administration, which includes business services and the director's office. This amount is really requested in comparison to all other city departments on an annual basis. Jenny, back to your question, this is why revenues and expenses are aligned in this fund. Whatever we're awarded from the general fund is considered as revenue, and we are expected to spend the same amount.
What is the percentage out of the general fund? What is Parks and Rec's percentage?
6%. And this is split with 21 different departments. I think my number's confused, but that 6% has been very consistent year over year.
Okay.
Also appears lottery fund. Lottery fund is the second from the right. This is another one where the revenues and expenses do align. Revenues are received from the state each year and they're distributed to every municipality based on your population on a per capita basis, really. I think that all of this really does have to go towards improvements of parkland and it does require a report back to the state each year. So we do, this funding has historically been split with Parks and Recreation, Open Space, and Greenways departments. Starting in 26, Parks and Recreation will get all of this funding for CIP projects for the next 5 years, just given the priority needs of the department.
How's that decided? Sorry.
That was decided by the executive budget team. There's a citywide leadership team that basically works to look at all of the funds citywide. There's 41 funds citywide. We have the most number of funds that support our department individually. So there is kind of all of this money is a different color and you can shuffle it around to make it whole.
Okay.
I just missed what you said. You said split with open space and.
Greenways,
Greenways.
the transportation greenways. So
Is how it used to be prior to 2024.
Oh, thank you for that
2024.
clarification.
In 2024, we said, can we time out? Utilities is fully funded by the ratepayers. Open space is fully funded to the highest levels of their plans. Could we have some more, please? And they looked at it through that executive budget process and said, yeah, we agree with you. And so now we have the full allocation.
So that's why it increased from the master plan where it's like around $500,000.
correct.
Okay, great.
Ali did some great advocacy work for the department. Sorry.
Good job.
On the next slide, we have the 0.25 cent sales tax fund. You'll see this abbreviated as the 0.25 ST. This is our dedicated sales tax fund that's really towards the operations and maintenance and also can be used for capital. Within here, you will see that we collect, what is it? 3 cents for every sales tax dollar collected in the city. So not a whole lot, but that does add up to almost $12 million a year. And this is what the most flexible funding is that we have within the department that we have control over. So it's really used for a wide variety of things. Everything from the horticulture, so the flower beds, to our snow removal, to special events, volunteerism, and then it also does support our capital projects. As we get into our capital projects, you will see that we have capital coming from 5 different funds. So it is a mix and match to come up with all of the funding and making sure that it is being used on the allowable uses. So I know that it can get confusing. The general fund, the 0.25 and the recreation activity fund are really our predominant operating funds. And then everything else is a combination of capital. On the next slide, we really get into the recreation activity fund. You will hear a lot about this. This is our quasi-enterprise fund. So all user fees and participation fees are going in towards this, as well as the cost to provide those services. So it is both revenues and expenses for recreation services. Everything from a entrance to the rec center to a camp for your child is out of the recreation activity fund. You'll hear this referred to as the RAF. We do spend a lot of time on it just because it does require more attention like a business. You are balancing revenues and expenses. This fund does receive a subsidy from the general fund on an annual basis. That has historically been around 1.6 million. It was that way when I started several years ago. So I will say that this is something that hasn't caught up with inflation, and therefore we do have higher user fees than other surrounding municipalities. And that is something that you will hear about. That is how Boulder has chosen to fund municipal recreation. So we are very grateful for the subsidy that we do receive. But you will hear complaints about our funding structure compared to others. And it's very difficult doing a true apples to apples comparison just because we have this broad depth of different dedicated funds in the department.
The 14.6, is that all? I'm sorry if you said it already, but that's all revenue?
We have
Except
1.6
for the
million in
1.6.
subsidy, and then another small subsidy from the 0.25 cent sales tax fund, but yes.
So it's about 12 million in user fees and revenues. Is that right? Like the 14.6, does that include the subsidies?
It does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think the revenues are about, they're typically around 90%.
It's about 10.
Thank you.
Every $5 bucket of balls, $65 paddle board permit, all of it adds up and does come up to a lot. The last thing that we don't have a slide for, but I do want to call out is other capital funds. Voters have approved different funding sources for kind of limited term projects or things that get us to the action and vision level within the 22 department plan. This has really supported some of the pocket park that will be going in at Boulder Junction. The capital development fund individuals pay as they are building new construction, and that goes to supporting new and enhanced assets for parkland. So we've used it for the expansion of the Scott Carpenter Pool. It's being used for Primos Park, just creating a new park that didn't have an existing funding source. And then finally, in 2021, voters reapproved the community culture, resilience, and safety tax. That provided a list of different projects that was supported. We are paying for Civic Area Phase 2, Pearl Street Mall, and is there another project? Yep.
East.
East. Thank you.
Big one.
Yes.
50 million.
What's our percentage of the CCRS tax?
A whole lot of it.
A whole lot.
I want to say collectively 60-ish million out of about 112 million over the next 10 years.
A lot of it going towards civic area.
Civic area
And
East.
this chart I recommend just keeping as a nice summary to know what is available.
Jenny, you'll see your other capital. We will only call out the revenue as what's getting programmed. So those numbers also match top and bottom.
Okay, great.
So something else you'll hear about is the long-term financial strategy. This is a multi-year project that City Council, Finance Department, and City Manager's Office is leading. Basically, the revenues that the city has are very restricted to different uses. We obviously benefit from that, but it creates challenges across the city when we are trying to provide services for the greatest municipal needs, as opposed to special needs that are really carved out in those dedicated funds. So that is the long-term goal. As far as how we get there, there is a multi-year strategy to focus on different service levels or work streams to get there. All of these work streams are focused on the financial sustainability of the city, equity, and then resiliency in how we deliver our services. Do you mind going 2 slides ahead? So within that, there is a long-term financial plan, and this is really citywide policies on what are our reserves, how do we rely on our reserves. Then the second one is the alternative funding mechanisms. 2 years ago, PRAB approved a fee policy and then annually approves the different fee schedule for all of the cost of services that we do provide. This is being rolled out to all city departments to make sure that fees are being updated on a regular basis and that there is a clear inventory or menu of what the fees are for any service that the city provides. Core services is really trying to benchmark our services compared to like cities to verify that we are in line with what the recommended service level is. We do know that Boulder has very high expectations and just wanting to clarify if you have high expectations, what it costs or what comparable cities can do with a comparable budget. And then finally, there will be a ballot measure strategy. 2025 will be focused very much on taking care of what we have. And 2026 will be focused more on the longer term changes.
So the ballot measure strategy for 2025 is going to be an extension of a tax, right? And something else.
There's 2 measures on the table. One is to extend the CCRS through 2050, which would give us more capacity for major capital projects. And the other is a consideration of this perm park funds, broadening the uses and expanding it in mills so that it both brings in more revenue and could be used for more things. Like right now, we can't charge snow removal to this fund because it's so restricted to acquisition and development.
You can't charge snow removal to which fund?
From parks. That's the one that's being proposed, that it be renamed to public realm so that it could be used for a lot more uses to benefit the community.
And that's the increase of the mills to 15? Is that
13?
13, and that's to top level, right?
Correct.
Okay. And right now we take in 0.9.
The department for the Perm Parks Fund gets 0.9 mils, correct?
Is that our total mills then?
Citywide, it's
No, I mean,
12
for parks.
Oh, for parks, yes.
Yeah, okay. Citywide, it's whatever the top is, right? Yeah. Thank you.
All right, I'm looking at the time, and so rather than Scott and I speed talking, I might just skip some of these and come back to you later with them. The intent is to let you know what's on the work plan for the year. You're gonna see that in the next agendas, and so but building on what Jackson said and what you're hearing, there's nothing that comes to you that hasn't been carefully and thoughtfully planned by work from the community engagement at the direction of city council or through this plan that was unanimously approved in 2022.
It's a 5-year plan?
5 to 7. We have it in the CIP to start planning again in 2027. And so that's what this graphic is showing. You'll see us here, you'll hear us on the right. All of our decisions factor in what does the community say? What does the data say? And what does the policy from council and the community say? That's another reason why we just can't, you'll hear lots of good ideas from people. We can't, every community member, 104,000 people don't have an individual vote. We have to think of the collective. And so that's just, we love this graphic on the right because it really helps us answer some of those questions. A key takeaway though, that we do want you to know as we move into budget season, when this plan was approved, this is the graphic that we showed the CRAB, that we showed the planning board, and that's the city council. Without additional funding, we will be decreasing service levels. Cost escalation is outpacing revenues. We have a robust, amazing system, and it's old and it's expensive to operate. And so we will be facing that. We're not sure yet with if it'll be with the 26 budget or 27, but it's coming. And we're working really hard to identify other sources of revenue. We have a team that works on grants and philanthropy. We're looking at additional subsidies, and we are working on revenue generation. So all adults in our system, basically, unless you qualify for financial aid, you will pay full price for the service that you're getting. We provide discounts for young people, for older adults, for people with disabilities, and people who need that financial discount. We means-based discounts. And so that's something, to Jackson's point, you'll see come up in the tension. We're looking at non-resident fees. We're looking at what the businesses who operate in the parks pay, and then just continually looking at being entrepreneurial, for example, at the golf course. Based on time, I think we'll skip the work plan pieces. And because I think it's important that you all get to introduce this idea of topics and major projects. And we'll figure out a way I can loop it in on my one-on-one onboarding with you all, letting you know the major work plan items. We had it organized by each of the 6 key themes. So the strategic plan of the BPR plan starts on page 68. Everything before it is background and really helpful information about our system. But the strategic plan itself starts on page 63. And we were going to give you an overview on just what's the data we use to track performance, what were our big accomplishments in 24, and what are we working on in 25. You have these slides also, right? And so you all can reach out if you have any questions for us.
I'm sorry, can you say when you sent them? Because
It should have been in the packet you got Wednesday, or maybe we didn't send you the PowerPoint. If we didn't, we'll send it.
It's a link to
Yeah.
it's just a link to the agenda.
Just
they're all in the
the
agenda, yeah.
email
Okay.
related to the.
So we did include this.
Yeah, there was a link
Okay.
to it, so basically you have to click into it and then look at April, and then you'll see this meeting, and then you can click and view the slides.
Thank you.
Perfect. And I can touch base on our one-on-ones. The one I want to make sure to talk about, because it's such a big deal, is that one of our major initiatives in 2025 is to become accredited. So there is a national organization that set forth 154 standards that define a high-performing agency. And over the last year and a half, our department has been in pursuit of those. We had an official visit by a trained group of visitors in March, and at our national conference in September, we will sit at a hearing for that accreditation. Less than 2% of agencies all over the country have achieved this. We think it's a key step in showing the community that they're funding a well-organized, high-performing department. We hope it helps as we talk about additional revenue possibilities, as we look at, you'll hear folks say, well, why don't you just work harder? Or why don't you cut expenses? And we want folks to know we're working really hard. And this is a national standard. So we're pretty proud of that.
Is that your whole staff?
No, that's the folks who were at our state conference last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not a lot of people.
No, but it's just a fun picture from state conference to show that we're learning. And actually we had several teams present at the state conference.
How many staff do you have?
153 full-time FTE. And hundreds of non-standards. So Jackson mentioned he's approved 25 job offers today. It takes hundreds of lifeguards, camp counselors, instructors, and more to provide maximum and safe summer fun. And so we're in peak hiring mode right now.
So 153 is the full parks permanent.
Benefited either, 20, 30, or 40 hours year round.
Does the accreditation open up other sources of revenue, like grants?
That's not directly. Indirectly, we think in showing that we're a well-run agency, it'll help with some revenue generation. But it doesn't directly open anything.
Right.
Yeah. This is a map of capital projects underway. The orange is when their ribbon cutting will happen. And so you all will get to see a lot of exciting projects come to life during your term. The biggest ones you've heard, East Boulder Community Center, we have $50 million in approved funding for renovation of that facility that'll make it more energy efficient and also modernize it for current and future uses. North Boulder Park, together with utilities, will be spending, 5 to 6 million on that park. The civic area, we have 19 million in approved funding for our key downtown park. We're talking to city council Thursday. If you're sitting around at 7:30 and have nothing to do, you can put some headphones on and vacuum. It's going to be a great meeting, and it's a really exciting project. So all jokes aside, if it would be a great meeting to listen to get up to speed on that project. And with that, we can just introduce this idea. You're not deciding tonight, but we have established board liaisons to some of our major projects. They have helped either because it's a passion project or because they just, so for example, a great example is Bernie was our liaison on our court system plan. 22, 23, we sure were hearing a lot from the tennis community and the pickleball community that we did not have enough courts. Both sports had grown by double digits in the pandemic, and we had no plan for where could we add courts, how much would it cost? Now we have a court system plan, and throughout that project, Bernie was a liaison and helped guide process and helped with engagement. And so as a liaison, you don't have any additional authority on the project. You don't have additional decision-making, but you do help support some of that. And Bernie, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, I would just say that it's like an opportunity for you to go for us to go a level deeper on key important projects. I don't play tennis or pickleball, so I took my disinterested position as an opportunity to learn about the needs of both groups, and as well as the system that we had in place, and the work that was being done to address it. And then I got to have a lot of coffees with a lot of people in the community who were eager to tell me about why the tennis courts were deficient or the pickleballers were deficient or some combination. And then I was able to bring those conversations back to PRAB and support the conversation that we were having here. So it's sort of an opportunity to become a subject matter expert in one subset. We will be, these are projects that we have currently, major projects that we're thinking about currently. We will assign ourselves to them.
More than one person in some, or is it just one?
It can be one or two, things like major things like civic area, rec centers, like they will probably warrant 2 members of the PRAB to be liaisons to those projects. Other areas are sort of less critical. We may also want to revisit this list. I think this is a little bit older.
Do you think so? I think
Maybe it's good. I don't know.
Is there not a South Boulder?
Well, that would be contained within the future of rec.
Oh, gotcha.
Our rec center's future as its own list.
Would that be broken out then, maybe?
Probably not, because it's kind of within one holistic project. I guess if it needed to be, we would absolutely consider that. This also, I would say that this is not a particularly formal list, like we can evaluate this as needed.
Well, I guess so. Well, because South Boulder Rec's not funded right now, but East Boulder. So would East Boulder have its own line or no?
That's really up for discussion, right? So East Boulder is going to move into design and construction development. There won't be community engagement at that phase, right? We've done.
Oh, right. This is community engagement, right?
Well, it's around just process and engagement and where there's going to be something coming to the board for approval at some point.
I would just say that these are not requirements. Like none of us is required to be liaison to a project. I enjoyed diving in with tennis and pickleball my first year on the PRAB because I got to know much more about the park system and the park staff very quickly, and also to meet lots of people in the community who are very passionate about the parks system. So I do encourage you all to think about what projects you may want to assign yourselves to or volunteer for. And then we'll assign ourselves at our next meeting. But we just want to kind of introduce this concept tonight. And to Jenny's point, if there are other things that you're aware of or other things you've heard about tonight that you think ought to have a liaison, we can absolutely discuss that.
Right, like this slide has the list of key projects we're working on. If there's something that you want to know more about, that's something you could bring to a one-on-one, or again, Rod, you want to follow up.
What does scoping mean for Pearl Street?
We are getting all the information we need to launch the project. So before we start a project, we do a bunch of background to make sure what's going to go into an RFP for consultant support. Who are the staff that are going to be on the project? What does the charter look like? So as we get to decision making, it's the prep.
The prep. Okay. And if anybody else wants to sit on the Play Boulder Foundation, you're welcome.
You're recruiting.
Does that I think should be the end of our agenda, right?
We did it.
We did it.
We thought we'd have 10 minutes for this part. We're at 5, but I think we can be a little.
And if we need extra 5 minutes, we can have it. Does anyone have any thoughts, questions, reactions? Anybody worried about what they committed themselves to?
Was it a 5-year term that I got, or?
I'm very grateful for all of this. I love the breakout. Thank you so much for putting this all together. Even being here a year.
I was gonna say, does it hit differently a year?
Absolutely, yes. I feel like I can ask budget, especially, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have questions that I think might be good ones.
Bring 'em on.
I don't understand. Yeah.
We're not rating your questions.
Yeah.
Like there's no grading process afterwards.
I talked to Rob, I told him when we first started, like my very first meeting was the milfoil conversation in the reservoir. And at that point, I was asking, like I was Googling, like how to get rid of milfoil.
I was gonna ask, can someone explain what milfoil is?
Yes.
It's an invasive aquatic species.
It is, yes.
That's all
We
you
don't
need
want
to
it
know.
in the reservoir, but it's not my job to figure out how to get it out of the reservoir. So that was a learning curve for me to realize what questions were necessary questions or good questions and what were not in my wheelhouse, not questions I should ask. So but this was, to me, I thought really informative and helpful. The breakdowns were really nice. I love the organization charts. And Jackson, I say it every time, you have the best graphs.
Stacy gets
That's right, yes. So I really appreciate you guys putting the time in to further educate even somebody who's been here years. So it all hits different. So I really appreciate that.
And if we want to take a deeper dive into budget, I can contact one of you and.
Yep, happy to do a sit down, walk through this.
Just maybe.
I have the quick resources. Where's the citywide budget?
Yeah, okay.
If more than one of you is interested in that, maybe we could group it just to save Jackson's time. But we are diving in on budget in April.
You may also, we're gonna get a lot of information about the budget in our next meeting.
Okay.
So maybe worth waiting until after.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a really good idea, is maybe wait for the April meeting where we're gonna do.
Because we'll be spending significant time on the budget. Yeah. Hopefully a lot of your questions will be answered then.
Do we have a field trip scheduled?
August.
August, great. Thank you.
Oh, it's a field trip.
Field trip
Remember
is.
those postcards?
We're going to Michigan, we're going to UP, to an island.
We hop in a van and
That's
we
right.
travel around to different key sites where we have projects underway together and get to talk to you. And I mean, it's a different experience talking about it in this room versus talking about it in the middle of undeveloped Primos Park.
That sounds great.
So we'll probably see Primos and East Boulder again, maybe. Civic Center.
Probably not Primos, just because maybe North Boulder Park, because we've not walked through that with you all. That's a really exciting project that we've not walked through. I'll need to get with the planning team. I'm thinking, I mean, Pearl Street and Civic area could be valuable, because just,
Tom Watson, maybe.
oh yeah. Yeah, we'll have construction underway there. Courts are coming.
We've got a little time to think about that.
We have, yeah, I mean, I'll want to consult with the team on where it's, I mean, we'd love to spend hours driving around with you and showing you off the work, right? But we try to be really thoughtful about like, where do you have work upcoming, or is it helpful for you to actually see the site together?
And typically we do that in place of a typical meeting. So it would be like normal time, normal place. And we just don't kind of have a regular business meeting that month of August.
Is flood mitigation at North Boulder Park part of what
Yes, sir.
you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're really excited for this project because that site doesn't absorb water well, and there's a whole lot that's going to happen in partnership with utilities to improve the drainage and grading.
I like the ducks there when it rains.
Well, I mean, then the problem is, yeah,
Used to be a lake. Did you know that?
Right, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
that's
No.
why it's a park.
Huh.
The very first city plan said this area is kind of boggy, it's pretty wet, you probably shouldn't build any houses here, you should just make it a park.
I know that's why it's great for the Nordic skiing, because the snow really sticks there.
Oh, it's funny.
Other questions do y'all have?
I have a lot, but I feel like they're specific to just my own, not having the knowledge yet. I think once
No,
I
absolutely.
dig in. Huh?
That's good.
Oh, well, I mean, no, it's just like random things, like I'm thinking about how we make decisions, and again, this is just off the top of my head, so it has not been thought through, but like, how do we make decisions on prioritizing high intensive carbon development projects, for example, like, do we balance in, for example, golf courses that require a lot of water in an area that's sort of going arid, in this part of Colorado, like, do we engage with climate modelers? Do we, it's almost like I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like carbon taxing. Are we making sure that we're spending money or investing in projects that perhaps are more sustainable than others? For me, I'm not a golfer, so it's just not my priority, but others I know love it. And I'm just thinking, again, just off the top of my head, like how we make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah. I'm going to try and address that briefly and helpfully. So one of the things I'll just share about Flatirons Golf Course is that similarly it sits in the floodplain and it serves an incredible site of stormwater detention that does
Okay,
protect
great.
a lot of the area nearby homes. And in a developed area, there's an incredible amount of trees. It's an Audubon protected golf course. And so it's a bird sanctuary. And so it provides a lot of benefits that folks don't necessarily understand.
Okay.
And that's why the city of Boulder continues. And it's the only golf course, meaning if it didn't operate and it's public, it's actually an accessible sport in Boulder. And so without it, anyone in our community who wanted to golf would be driving. And so there's a lot of factors there, but as to how we design and operate parks, climate is a lens, as is equity on everything that we do. Both of them in increasing ways every single year as we get better and better at it. As it comes to climate, so Primos Park, you'll learn we're testing something called the Sites Initiative that looks at from material selection to construction methods. How are you doing the least bit of harm as far as building on embodied carbon? How are you mitigating against climate change? That's a bit of a test so that in 26 and 27, and along with other projects you're going to be hearing about something called the future of parks. And that's where we are going to develop and update design standards, operating manuals to ensure that parks are providing the benefits they can. So for example, again, when we look at water consumption, let's say that Boulder were to follow other communities and disallow any turf in lawns. Well, parks are even more important then because they're everybody's backyard for active recreation. And so in the city's drought plan, parks are actually protected now because the irrigation is critical for the trees and for the active recreation spaces. Whereas, someone who never uses their backyard, that turf has a lot more individual benefit. The park has community benefit, but the whole park doesn't need to be turf. Whereas it's edge to edge now, maybe there's more native plantings and less irrigated areas. You're going to hear that conversation over the next 2 years as we mature in the methodology. There's some really great stuff happening.
That was a fantastic answer.
We're thinking about it. We have really smart people on our team. You didn't meet Mark Davison tonight. He's our senior planning manager. He's excellent. He's very good. He's helping us get to this place because our community expects us to do great work. And we do have some work to do to make sure that our park system is doing what it should to serve the community and the social benefits, but also what does it do for resilience?
Can you speak to fire a little bit, or, I'm not educated enough to know how the city of Boulder is managing that, but I have grave concerns about what's happening at the federal level in terms of restrictions in funding and saying you can't use the, climate change words and defunding investments for emergency response, all those things that are happening at the federal level. Can you give us sort of a high view? of
That
what's
one's harder to
happening?
do a 30-second soundbite on, other than to say the city has recently finalized the wildfire mitigation plan. I encourage you to Google and read on about it. The biggest impacts to us, what's that? The biggest impacts to us are where the parks are in the wildland urban interface, the WUI. G fines, some of those in South Boulder, and really the parks are already doing okay. They're irrigated. We have ways to protect again, but our forestry team advised that a lot. Because what does it mean for the urban forest and how are we looking at tree selection and other things? But that one's probably, to do it justice, it would be a good one to do more
These are
about.
big questions.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. That one's hard to do a soundbite on.
And the WUI, they're actually doing community outreach on that right now, and it's really good information. So you might want to look, just when you look that up through the city of Boulder, not the fire chief, or the chief, one of the, anyways, they do these great presentations about all of the resilient efforts that they're making. So,
Great, okay. I have a lot of homework to do.
And Yvonne, that one is a partnership. What's cool about that is it's climate initiatives and Boulder Fire Rescue working together on the wildfire mitigation plan. Because it's not just about, it is, I mean, there's such incredible climate impacts with the wildfires.
I, hopefully in closing, I just want to say that typically we would have 1 or 2 new prep members a year. Typically those 1 or 2 people have been kind of just tossed in the deep end. So I'm glad that we took this opportunity with 4 new members to have this meeting. Thank you again for your time. I'm going to volunteer. Also, typically when we have 1 or 2 new members, we have assigned mentors to our new members. With 4 new members, I think we should both consider ourselves be mentors to all 4.
Okay, great.
Right? So
That's great.
Jenny and I will reach out to each of you the next week or so, and hopefully we'll find time to get coffee and just kind of recap and answer lingering questions, and just talk more about what the private business does. And if you say, look, we're doing a lot of onboarding right now, we need to push this coffee off a month, that's fine. We got to be respectful of those time as well. But I think we can probably close the meeting with that, right?
That's up to you all.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you so much. This has been really helpful.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. A really great overview. So thanks for taking the time.
Okay.
Thank you all for your time. In a typical month, I mean, it's, a meeting and prep for that meeting, and you're going to have a lot more as you onboard. So just thank you.
The only other thing I'll say before closing is, are we gonna do a retreat again in the fall, maybe, for like something that we have done in the past is things that might not be on the agenda for the year, or for 5 years. If there's something that you feel passionate about, that the staff can bring in dedicated staff to talk about, just keep that in mind. So if we decide to have a retreat, maybe at the end of the year, just to talk through those things, staff's been really making sure that people are able to talk about that, because sometimes something you might be passionate about it's just not. Just keep that.
Sounds great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
See you there.
And feel free to grab another
Stacy,
postcard if
thank
you want
you.
another one.
It's nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
Nice.